For this video, we're gonna show 2 key points. First is gonna be how to measure your tracks to get the correct chains for tracks for your machine. The second one being how to check for clearance on your machine and for your track. So to start, this is a C block track. And so how to measure that is you're gonna go straight across, since that's how the chain is installed. And so if I measure this one, it's about 17.5 inches long. And so the correct chain for this one specifically is gonna be the 17 to 18.5 inch set of chains. And so how to check for clearance for this track and for this machine, you're gonna wanna cup your hand kind of in like a C, since that's how the brackets are installed. You're gonna wanna run your hand along the inside of this track and check to see if anything hits your hand, any obstacles, any bolts, anything, because that can also be something that is in the way of the bracket. And so you need at least about 1/2 inch of clearance between the track and the machine or the bolts or anything for clearance, because our chains, the brackets are 1/4 inch thick. And so measuring 1/2 inch will give you an extra 1/4 inch of clearance for anything in the way. So by running your hand, that's a fast way to check to see if anything will be in the way. So there's very few machines that have clearance issues, but it is important to check for yours specifically to make sure that there is nothing in the way of the brackets. So this is a multi-bar track. You're gonna measure this one straight across, since that's how the chains are gonna be installed. And so this one specifically is about 15.5 inches wide. So our 15 to 16.5 inch set of chains are gonna work for this. It's very important that you specify what track pattern you have, because the chains are gonna vary just slightly. And so specifically for the multi-bar, this one is extremely important to specify that you have this to make sure that you're getting the correct chains. So this is the H track pattern. It goes by several different names. H pattern, the wavy H, the vortex, whatever you call it. It's very common to come with Kubotas. And so for this one to measure, you're gonna go straight across. This one specifically, 17.5. So our 17 to 18.5 set of chains will work. It's also important, just double check your clearance. So this is another variation of the H pattern. This one's just a more narrow track. When you measure this one, it comes out to about 12.5 to 13. And so for this track specifically, you're gonna wanna measure and double check. And this one's gonna be the 13 size chain, so the 13 to 14.5, just because it's kind of going up and above. But you're still gonna install it the exact same way as the larger tracks. You're gonna put the welded fixed bracket in between the 2 H patterns, go straight across with the nut and bolt inside of that H. So for measuring on this excavator with the rubber track, since the chain's gonna be installed like this, you're gonna wanna measure just to double check to make sure that it's good. And so this one comes out to about 17.5 at that angle. And so the 17 to 18.5 set of chains will work on this application. Okay, so this is a zigzag track. So to measure this track, since the chain on this setup is gonna be straight across as well, so that's the way you're gonna measure it. And so for this track specifically, it's a 17.5 inch wide. So the 17 and 18.5 will be the set of chains that you'll need to purchase. And then same thing, checking for clearance by running your hand, just to double check. So this is a D block track, very similar to a block track. So installing the chains for a block and a D block is gonna be about the same. But as you can see with the chain being at an angle, that means you're gonna have to measure at an angle instead of straight across, just because the brackets need to be down in the groove. So taking the tape measure, measuring over, it's about 18.5, measuring that way. So the 17 to 18.5 inch set of chains will work for this. But again, just make sure when you do install this chain that it is at an angle and it's not straight across. So this is a Mini-excavator track with the Mini-X. Our chains will work on this application as well. To measure, you're gonna wanna measure how the chain is going to be installed. So as you can see, it's going to be kind of at an angle. And so when I measure at that angle, it's 12 inches. And so our 11 to 12.5 inch size chain will work for this setup. Okay, so for this track specifically, very common on the John Deere machines, to measure, it's going to be very similar to the other ones in the past. You're just going to run it straight across like this, and it pulls about 17.5. So our 17 to 18.5 for this machine specifically will work just fine for this track. It's very important specifically for the John Deeres, mainly the 333s. Sometimes other models can vary differently as well, but down by the lower portion of the front end of the machine, there's a bolt that tends to stick out, and it'll get really close to that track. And so if this is you, where clearance is an issue, where you can't run your hand past that nut, what you can do is you can take the nut off and reverse it from the inside of the cab and flip it around and put the head of the bolt on the outside with the nut and the extra length of that bolt installed inside of the cab. Other modifications that people have done as well is they've taken a grinder and they've kind of flattened that out. Those are all options that you can do. We definitely recommend just taking the bolt out and swapping it around. But yeah, so it's just important for the John Deeres to just double check that. So this is a brand new Bobcat. It's the T595 series. For checking for clearance, you're gonna wanna do the same thing. More specifically on this cover that's above the rear or the sprocket. So when you check for clearance, there's a hump on that cover. And so this is one of the very few machines that our chains don't work for this specifically, because there's just not enough clearance. You can barely fit your fingers in there. And so if you have this machine and you're wanting to get these chains, make sure you double check to see that yours actually has clearance.